Hi, and welcome to Together, the podcast where we teach and guide you in the art and the practice of sacred relating. In today's episode, we are going over how the feminine transforms the masculine from lost and insecure to empowered and clear. In today's episode, you are going to learn the pain and the struggle within the relationship of being an uninitiated man. We're going to go over the initiation process, and we're also going to go over the perks of moving through the initiation process, what you're going to get. And really make sure that you stick till the end, because we're going to go over how this process will serve your mission, power, and purpose even more. Welcome. I'm so glad that you guys are here. And I'm so excited to be back in the studio with you. It's been a hot minute with a virus going through our house, some technical difficulties with our equipment, but we're back in. It's been about probably 3 weeks since we've launched an episode. Excited to dive into this one with you.
Me too. And it's a juicy one. It's one that's alive for my clients. It's one that's alive. That's an ongoing conversation we have in our relationship, and that we get to keep learning about and dancing in.
Yeah.
Thank you for getting the studio set up, love, and holding that piece. Yeah. Mike's our tech guy, and he makes it happen. If it was me, I would just sit with a phone in front of me. So he's making all of these other things happen, and I'm really grateful. Thank you for playing that role.
Thanks, sweetie.
Yeah.
95% of the time, I love it.
Yeah, except for those frustrating moments where things don't work.
Gear breaks down and
I know.
prevents us from being able to put out the content.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So thanks for everyone having patience for us to get episodes back online. And yes, this is such a big one, and it's a collective one. I notice it's a conversation that's coming to the forefront more and more. And I see this so frequently with the men I end up supporting in my 6-month containers. It's what we see when we're supporting couples in the relational dynamic, is where the relationship is inviting the initiation process, where the feminine is designed to initiate the masculine into being a man, or what I like to call king energy. So we're going to start in this place of what does it look like if a man is uninitiated? I'd love to hear from you on the feminine side first, from your lens.
Can I add one other piece and then
add
do
it?
that?
Yes.
So if you're listening and you're a same-sex couple, or maybe you feel like you're more masculine even though you're the feminine and your partner's more feminine, a way to relate with this material is also just to think of these parts inside of yourself. This dynamic of initiation can happen in same-sex relationships, and maybe just listen with an open curiosity of how does that process play out in our particular relationship and in our dynamic, because you'll probably hear similar patterns. And so just wanting to hold, it's like when we talk about masculine, feminine, we can hold it with a lightness, with a curiosity. We're not saying men are this and women are this. We're saying these energies, and generally they also embody in us in a certain way when we have certain biology and hormones.
Yes. Yeah. I love that you're laying that out. It's not gender specific, but it is unique to the qualities of those energies that we find in our relationship. Often does play out in me in a male body, you in a female body.
And the interesting thing is I also have lots of masculine traits, and Mike has lots of feminine traits. So, and we're actually going to do a future episode talking about how the masculine initiates the feminine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is such a juicy one. So I'd love to hear from you from the feminine perspective. What do you notice from your lens as the qualities of an uninitiated man?
You know what the first word that comes to mind is complainy. Meaning like when the masculine is in a complaining about the feminine's emotions, the feminine's experience, and kind of like what I notice it as is it's a complaining about having to grow up and like be in life. It's like the whiny kind of complainy. This is hard, you know? And it's a little bit like this initiation process is like, yeah, yep, it's hard. Show up for it, is a bit of what the initiation process is. Like lean into it. And not that we can't share the difficulty of initiation or the difficulties of life, but there's a difference between feeling the difficulty and feeling it and going into it versus hanging out on the outskirts and complaining about it.
Like living it, unconsciously just living and embodying victim consciousness in the complaint of having to relate with an empowered feminine.
Having to relate with an empowered feminine and having to relate with life. Because I think it's the same.
That's right.
Because life is the earth is a feminine energy. Life is Shakti. This is a word I use. Like it's full on life force, baby. It's like all the emotions and all the things. And, one of the things, that often you can hear from the uninitiated masculine is, oh, you just want so many things. Yep. Yes, I do. and when I say yep, I don't say it from the little girl who's like, I want everything I want. I say it from we're alive. There's going to keep being needs. There's going to keep being life coming. Like life just keeps coming. It's kind of like life is like that, right? Like it's not like we say to life, well, I'm going to pause and I don't want any struggles. It's like, that's life. It's a river. It's flowing. And the feminine is that. So I think the uninitiated man will complain about that and avoid it and blame life, blame the feminine, blame. But I just see the feminine is literally just life standing in front of you. She's just life standing right there. And she's saying, hey, like face this, move through this. And the uninitiated man doesn't recognize that, doesn't want to, runs away and blames. Blame is a really big part of that. And I feel like that. And as the feminine, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating because the inner experience of the feminine, just to go off this life part, right, is it's the feminine energy in all of us and the art of embodying feminine. And women really are designed to do this biologically because of giving birth and conceiving and raising children. Hormonally, they're more tapped into that, is surrendering to life. Like instead of controlling life and directing life and forcing life, it's more, I'm allowing life to move through me. I'm surrendering into it. And maybe even I don't like what's here, but this is what's here.
Well, I've watched that with you.
Right.
Well, this is a lot of energy to feel and embody.
Yes, that's right.
Be.
Yeah. Like I'm inside as the feminine, like, oh, I want to avoid this. Oh God. Like, and I think the thing to understand is when you've got a feminine who can actually surrender to life, meaning she actually knows how to listen, how to surrender, how to let that much life energy move through her. That's a lot of creative energy. And then you like, and it doesn't mean that now she's crazy and out of control. And it means, whoa, holy shit, she can channel a lot of life energy.
She's in her body. She's alive.
She's tuned in.
Yeah.
Wow. It's a gift.
Yeah.
And, we're going to talk about the feminine's responsibility and role in that. But I think the uninitiated man will receive that feminine and go, ugh, and wants the feminine who is like, easy and sweet and goes with the flow. Everything's good, because that is easy and lets us, float along the surface of life. Won't lead to deeper intimacy or connection, but whereas, what the feminine is inviting when she goes into that more realness is she's inviting him to be in life with her.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm really hearing there is, and I'm using my words here, but where there can be a loss of attraction if the man is in an uninitiated experience.
And it's a very common thing that the feminine processes in therapy sessions, in life, that they're frustrated because they feel like the masculine is like, hey, will you avoid life with me? Come over here. Let's avoid life. And the feminine's body is like, oh, I can't avoid life and then have sex with you.
Yeah, that's it.
I can't avoid life and then like bring my most juicy self to like be, or to like hold space for your mission because now I'm all dried up.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretending in all these places that you want me to pretend. I'm now not opening. I'm not like that deeper love, that deeper devotion, the deeper fierceness of how I can support you is not online.
Yeah.
And that's where you get the feminine who also becomes ambivalent and isn't, super keen on how can I make you feel amazing.
Yeah. Which for so many women can only hang out there so long until their heart fully breaks and they either leave the relationship or just collapse and shut down.
Yeah, or they really believe the story of, being a good partner is I'll avoid life with you.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of women can get stuck there and actually turn against their own inner power because they believe that story, but it's not going to lead to intimacy. It's not going to lead to epic lovemaking. It's not going to lead to creativity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How about you? How do you see it from
masculine? What comes up for me, and if you've been listening to our episodes, for a while, this is the example I'll probably use the most because it's palpable. It's real. In my last marriage, I felt I was the uninitiated man. I spent that entire relationship learning about personal development, doing courses, getting the information about these things, but not embodying it because I didn't understand the process of it. I just didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And so what that looked like for me is I related with porn regularly. I used substances to numb out, and I really was driven by a lot of instant gratification. I wasn't able to execute my mission. I could see what my mission was, but I would try to go to take a step and I would just feel so insecure and lost and scared, and I would retract and I couldn't do the step. Like I couldn't physically do it. I would buy, in the episode I just recorded on a solo cast, I was describing this where I invested all this money in cameras and microphones, and my soul was telling me what my mission was. I'm here to talk and share. Obviously, I love to talk and share.
You're good at it.
Thank you. What's moving through me and my story and my wisdom and my journey of transformation. And I just couldn't do it because I wasn't being initiated. Now where I'm at now, the words that I would put to this is I was a little boy in a man's body, just moving around, wanting my wife to take care of me, wanting me to feel okay and comfortable and loved and nurtured, which actually made me a weaker man. It was enabling really underdeveloped parts inside of me where I was able to hide from life. I wasn't taking responsibility, and I didn't know this in my head. It was just that was what an uninitiated man looks like, is just really small and insecure and controlling. A strong quality of an uninitiated man is controlling, judgmental, critical, seeing the feminine, if I were to put words to it from the men that I've supported, language around it is like, oh, the feminine's too much. Her feelings are a problem. It's never good enough. And it's like, yeah, welcome to a woman who's.
What did that one man say? So basically, she's, remember? A nightmare or something like that. When you were describing.
Yeah, what were the words? Yeah, just to name, I pulled men aside. We were doing a couples retreat in person, and part of the event was me, being with the men and educating this piece we're talking about. And one of the men with, so much compassion communicated. So basically what you're saying is the feminine's annoying. And I was like,
no.
If that's what you got from what I said, you're missing the mark, my friend. And
that's a classic,
but that's the example.
Scene. Yeah.
And I just want to name, we're not making fun or laughing at this person, but there's humor to this dynamic of that is what an uninitiated man will look like. Is there's a little innocent boy in there that does see the feminine as a problem and annoying, but that's not a real mature, developed way of seeing it and experiencing it and feeling it. And so when I look back at this, previous marriage, that was so much of my existence. Just would try to execute my mission, couldn't do it because it wasn't being initiated. It wasn't being called out in all my blind spots. I wasn't being invited to mature in these places that just will have to develop capacity. Because
just to paint this picture, she wasn't mirroring it to you.
She wasn't mirroring it to me.
Like she wasn't telling you.
So I'll describe the qualities. So the qualities that I attracted in my previous partner was it so matched. Like the part of me unconsciously that wanted a mom who was really there and really protective. And she was all of those things. She was a great mom, not an intimate partner. She would protect me and she would stand up for me and build me up and say how great I am and just see all my gifts and share them with me. And that part felt great. But the ingredients that were missing was her fierce feminine being able to stand up to the power that I have as a man. So a little boy online in a big man's body. And my experience was she couldn't call me out or wasn't stepping into that part of her to really initiate me. Instead would just, I'll just keep taking care of him. Maybe if I keep giving him everything that he wants, maybe then I'll feel loved, is, my imagining of what was playing out on the other side. And that led to me being enabled in really weak parts. And this is just dynamics. I just want to name this. This is important. These are imprints. And we will attract these qualities that we're looking for that we didn't get from mom and dad, and it will play out in ways that aren't empowering and mature if the imprint just plays out from younger parts. So what this led to was her being in a position that, just to name as part of her pattern, is seeking outside the relationship because I'm guessing so unattracted with me being in younger little boy parts, and then her seeking outside the relationship for another partner. And so the relationship ended. And that's what an uninitiated man looks like. It leads to loss in polarity. It leads to numbing out and using just instant gratification tools to try to soothe the level of discomfort and shame and insecurity that's living inside. And it's a painful place to be. The men that I, relate with now or support that are in the process of being initiated and waking up to the initiation process, it's left them feeling broken, confused, and exhausted in their bodies and just defeated. Like, why can't I do the thing that I want to do?
Because what is it they're wanting to do?
have clarity in what their mission and purpose is and bring that into the world in a way that nourishes them in the felt sense, where they feel empowered and fulfilled and confident, but also being able to actually emotionally meet their partner, where their partner sees them as valuable, can receive what they're providing, and where they get met in a way where their sexual needs are satisfied, where their partner is just overjoyed with who they are as a man.
Right. So, and then they're not connecting those two. Like, they want this purpose and they want this mission, but it's not happening, but they're also not connecting. Oh, but it's actually through welcoming the feminine and learning how to meet her that I'm actually going to be brought into that.
Yeah, the thing that's in the way of that happening is the lack of awareness and understanding that there is an initiation process to be in, and all those places the feminine's pissed and frustrated and disappointed are the ingredients to initiate and wake up the man. That's not that she has too many feelings and needs and is a problem. That's because she's actually pointing and mirroring back to you as a man. You have blind spots, my friend. You have a little boy that's online looking to get his needs met, and that's not meant to be met here. Like, you need to go get help and support and start to heal those deeper wounds so that there can be an adult attraction in the relationship.
Yeah.
It's in the feminine inviting the masculine to grow up, to allow, some language here is like, kill the little boy. I don't like that. For me, what it feels true in my process is go scoop up the little boy and help him integrate and grow up with you. Because that little boy that lives inside of me is such a gift in the work that I do. But if he's driving the bus from a wounded place, it's just not attractive. It's not safe. It's not secure. But if I integrate it and I learn how to scoop up and recognize, whoa, there's a little boy at play here. It's really impacting our connection. And I acknowledge it. I take responsibility for it. And I go and do deeper work to heal it and go get those needs met outside of the relationship. And I allow that to integrate into my nervous system. Oh, that's what's going to create the safety and security to be able to show up in this relationship in a way that will be attractive.
Yeah. And what really stands out there too is, I lost my thought. Sometimes I have a funny moment where I'm like, wait, am I losing my thought? And I'm like, oh, when I had that thought, I lost it.
Well, I came in and you had the thought, and then I shared more and probably brought in new thoughts. We can wait.
Maybe it'll come back. Oh, it just makes me think about how, how so much of this is also cultural, just to any of you feeling shame or whatever, because this is cultural, because as men, you weren't you weren't brought into initiation rites of passage as, boys and teens, and all of those things help men learn about initiation.
Yeah, perfect story to highlight this. This is the example. So what I described in my previous marriage, that is a byproduct of the father that I had and what I was modeled. This is often what a lot of men are feeling so much pain and frustration about, is their dads just didn't have a mission, clarity, and know how to meet their partner. And so that's just what was modeled. That's what's in the nervous system. So my dad, for most of my development, God bless his soul. I say this with so much love and compassion. This is a man with a lot of wounding and trauma, and didn't know to get help and how to deal with it. But by not getting the help and support, by not being initiated, I learned, attract a partner who's just going to take care of me and not call me out. And I just get to hide and live here. That's what my nervous system knew. But the beautiful thing, and the reason I want to bring this story is this is the ultimate transformation journey. My dad, when he was in his, I think 70s, late 60s, early 70s. My dad was an alcoholic. My mom went to an Al-Anon meeting and came home and put the pamphlet on the table.
My dad never called him out on it.
Never called it, like maybe tried verbally
Mm-hmm.
and maybe tried to have conversations about it. I don't know. I don't know what happened behind. It was never talked about in our household. Everyone just pretended that my dad wasn't an alcoholic, is how I remember it. And so she goes to an Al-Anon meeting because she had finally, I think, hit a place of like a bit fierce of like, this isn't okay. This is a problem. So she went to get her self-support. She went to Al-Anon, puts the pamphlet on the counter. My dad walks into the kitchen and he looks at the pamphlet and he's like, what's this? And she's like, well, you're an alcoholic and I need support. So I went to Al-Anon. And he looked at her and God bless his soul, I am? And it's like
I am an alcoholic.
Like I'm an alcoholic. Like he just, her going and getting support. And I want to name this because the part that really stands out here for me is she brought resource into the field that she couldn't hold herself. And that added resource is the thing that also helped the initiation to happen.
Oh, which also brings me back to what I was going to say earlier,
Yes.
Which is how much we need a mirror.
Need the mirrors.
Like if we're just walking around in our patterning and we don't have the mirror, it's really hard to see our blind spots and our patterns. And
it's impossible.
But we live in a culture that's like, you got to figure it out yourself. Like you got to know it's actually impossible. We need other people to reflect. And, the feminine, because we're wired hormonally and in all these different ways, we're more wired to be attuned to subtleties. This is where the feminine can be an amazing ally. Because she's going to be able to mirror to you and give you feedback information about what's there.
Yes.
That this is a very common thing that we see things in our friends or we see things in our partners and we just assume they must be aware of it. But it's like, maybe not, because, the biggest blind spots are our own. It's way easier to see each other's. Right. And so this is what makes this sacred work. This is what makes it sacred relationship. It's like you become the sacred mirror.
That's right.
It's not an attack. It's not I'm going to take you down. I'm going to point out everything that's wrong with you. It's hey, I'm going to show you this sacred mirror of what's out of or your blind spots so that you can become more of who you're here to be.
Yes. And deep down on the soul level, I believe we all know this. And in that previous marriage, I remember going to my partner and looking at her and saying, please, is there something that I can't see? I would say this like weekly, monthly. I feel like you aren't happy here. And I just like, is there some way that I'm not meeting you? Is there something you can see I could work on? I can't see it. She'd be like, no, you're perfect and amazing. Don't change a thing, is what I would always hear for years. But I want to name that because on the soul level, we know that. We know that we need the mirror. We are we're relational beings that need mirrors to develop health. So the places we didn't get the mirror, it's like that's where blind spots happen. This is where the wounds just keep playing out. And to bring this back to my dad's story, this is beautiful just to feel the full transformation here. My dad went from over 2 decades of being an alcoholic, not really pursuing a strong, empowered mission, just doing the very basic to just exist. And then my mom going to the Al-Anon and bringing that pamphlet down brought him a mirror that helped him actually see something he couldn't see. And that was his light bulb moment of, shit, I'm an alcoholic. My partner's going and getting support because of where I'm at. Like that, I imagine, was his process of, oh my God, I have to do something about this. And then I think it was the very next week, he started going to AA meetings and he went regularly. And he actually got into a place where he stopped drinking. And this is, gives me chills feeling this. Also brings up emotion because I wish that had happened 2 decades prior to when it did, but it did, is he went into these AA meetings and he started to develop relationships of support. other people where he could then process through all of his material and start to grow up. And that led to him going and doing relational repair and trying to bring new qualities to the relationship with my mom and bringing new qualities to, his children. And one of the most beautiful gifts he gave me by being initiated and going through that process and taking responsibility for his life, getting help and support, building adult relationships, doing the shadow work, going through the steps, led to the evening before his death, or the evening before his stroke that led to his death. My partner and I were visiting at the time, and my dad walked into the living room and he looked at me and he said, "Mike, I'm not good with all that emotional stuff, but I want you to know that I love you." He'd never said that before. One of the greatest gifts that he gave me. And then right before he transitioned out. And this is the reason I want to share this is the magic and the potency of a man saying, or the masculine saying yes to the initiation process, is the nervous system, the healthy blueprint that we all have inside starts to activate and guide us towards next steps that allows us to grow up. We will start doing relational repair because ultimately we do want to feel connected. We all want that, but we have to allow the initiation process, like you beautifully said, that sacred mirror, to be there to allow the healthy blueprint to start to mobilize into adult steps and actions that create more safety.
Yes. Beautiful story, Mike. Such a beautiful example. And the importance to the feminine of the importance of being courageous to be the mirror.
Yeah.
And then also, just to speak before we go to the next point from the feminine, like for me in my first marriage, we eventually figured out the initiation process by the end when we realized we weren't really meant to be together. We were together for about 10 years. And, but at the beginning, it was like, what it looked like for me is I was just becoming an emotional mess, right? Because it wasn't landing. And then the way that I eventually coped with that is eventually I reached a point of ambivalence. And then I just started to build my own life. I just started to focus on my own stuff. I started to, but it's also interesting just to name another layer of what this uninitiated man can look like is, a very common one in the spiritual community right now is when the feminine brings something, hey, this hurt. Hey, this didn't feel good. Hey, this, oh, well, that's your stuff.
Yeah.
When the masculine says, well, that's your stuff. And it's like, yes, and the and is missing. So yes, that's her emotions. Yes, that's what she's feeling. And it's a mirror to you to reflect. Right. So what is this showing me? And what can happen in the uninitiated man in the spiritual world is, like, well, you need to work on your own stuff. I'm going to work on my own stuff. And then there's a gaslighting of the feminine and what she is sharing. And there's a using, instead of receiving that as a gift, is actually using it to be bigger than her and to make her small. And there's a lot of women getting really messed up in that dynamic because they can believe that, first of all. And it just disrupts that sacred cycle.
Yeah. Well, it's like the piece there that I really hear is where the masculine avoids the sacred mirror and then almost turns it around, on any, like any mirror, there's a solid background where you can't see through it. It's like just turning it back. And then that's the gaslighting is like, actually, this is all about you and I'm bigger than you. And that's just, it's the ultimate frustration and dysfunction in relationship.
Oh, I remember one, and eventually my partner ended up apologizing about this when he realized it. But this is a classic one too, right? Where, I ended up in that dynamic around our sex life, and I had a lot of trauma in that place. Right. And so, I just kept being like, yep, it's all my stuff. It's all my stuff. It's all my stuff. And here my body is also saying to this partner, it's also your stuff. It's also your, like, my body's trying to mirror something. But then I just kept thinking, it's all mine, it's all mine, it's all mine. And of course it's not, it's a dynamic, right? And that's the part that is, we have to remember in this initiation process, and we're going to go into it, is, you know, my body is not just showing my trauma, it's showing a dynamic that's here.
Yes.
And I remember when I finally realized it, you know, I've just been spinning in a circle, taking all the responsibility. And guess what? Then nothing's changing because the initiation process isn't happening.
Yeah.
And, you know, the gift to me, though, was that partner being able to come back to me and say, oh, yeah, I was putting that all on you. Turns out I was contributing. And that was so healing to have that acknowledgement, you know,
Yeah.
that, and he had received the initiation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what I've noticed, just, you know, being a witness to the relationship that you two still have, is where that's allowed connection to keep happening.
Yeah.
It's evolved and changed because the initiation process did happen.
That's right.
And then you can still relate, but in the new ways. And that's the gift. Yeah. The piece that I want to highlight here too is, you know, sometimes, like, you may be thinking the uninitiated man looks like a little boy who's just like weak and shy and collapsed, but that's not true. The uninitiated man, that little boy, can also be it is expressing through a big, powerful man's body, and it can be really convincing. And
it can have really amazing relational words and be really kind and be really say all the right things.
Know all the right information, say all the right things, where the gaslighting is actually believable, like where, oh, this is all my stuff. And if you find yourself in a dynamic where you keep saying, this is all my stuff, and you don't ever hear the other person saying, oh, this is my stuff and this is what I'm contributing, you're probably in a situation where that man is uninitiated in that place, and you're being bamboozled by a little boy who's like really intelligent. Yeah. And again, no shame, but that's an important one to name, because it is a place that women, or that the feminine, can find themselves in. Like, but they're so kind and loving, but I feel so shitty in my body and confused, and what's going on? And so before we shift into the process, I just want to highlight the question that's most often missing inside of the man, in the uninitiated man, is when life itself, when partnership, when relationships are poking in these places, is creating some sort of difficulty or conflict. The question that's often missing is, where is there truth in this? So if it's an intimate partnership, and, you know, you, Courtney, come to me and say, well, you are this and you're that, and I'm so pissed and I don't feel safe. If I don't ask the question, well, her material might be here, she's activated, but like, where is there truth in what's being expressed? If I don't ask that question, I'm not going to move to the next step of being initiated. I'm just going to stay in the hiding and deflecting and defending. So maybe now let's shift into what the initiation process looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to hear how you see it.
Yeah. For me, the initiation process is almost this mature acceptance that life itself is a mirror, and it is always inviting a deeper awareness, a deeper sense of responsibility for what's playing out in this reality. Like, you know, and I always learn this so much listening to people talk about how they see the world and how they see relationships, is everyone has a very different reality based off of how developed they are. And so the initiation process for me is, I'm going to receive what you, Courtney, share with me from a place of embodiment. If you don't feel safe, if you don't feel met, if there's a big wave of emotions coming, if there's a big tsunami coming at me and you're really pissed and upset, it's me allowing that amount of life come and like hit me, And for me to consider and be curious, well, what is this inviting me to look at? And where is this life energy inviting me to grow up? If I can't be in it, if I can't navigate it in it, I can't grow up. So it's this process of maturing. It's this process of receiving the ingredients that are coming at me that poke and prod a bunch of discomfort and triggers, and then me getting to intimately move into the triggers to get to know what's trying to awaken, and then bringing that maturity back to the relationship.
Well, and what I want to say there is, Mike's describing the feeling of what it feels like to have the feminine move towards him. And what I want to say is that's what it doesn't mean the feminine's coming and like yelling. It could literally be the feminine is like coming and just like sharing like something calmly, but it can feel like a tidal wave because she's feeling a lot about it. And I think this is the tricky part, right? Is you are going to feel a lot, because she's bringing something that she's feeling. And so even if she does it in a good way, it's going to be like a big smack, It's like a lot of energy.
Yeah. And sometimes just a name, if you're really numb and this is talking to the somatic piece. If you're really numb in your body and lots of freeze in your nervous system, you may not feel a lot. You just might feel really frustrated. Like instead of like when the feminine comes, you're like looking at it and she's saying all the things and you just don't understand. You might just actually be confused. And so confusion can be a byproduct as well. If you're really numb or actually using agents to numb out. I'm like, well, okay, well, thanks for sharing that. I'm going to go check out my porn and not feel, just naming that there can be that.
Yeah.
And so I just want to, more simply put, for me, the initiation process is taking radical self-responsibility for how I'm impacting the world. If my relationships aren't right, if people aren't feeling good, I'm going to take that information and get curious of what I'm contributing that's leading to that. And I'm going to go do work on it.
Yeah, it's like the radical acceptance that everything that comes my way is teaching me something, it's showing me something. And how I experience it with you, Mike, that is so like delicious and amazing and such a gift is that every time we have a rupture, there's the coming back. You come back with, like the gold of like, oh, this is how the insight that came through for me. Oh, this is what, like every time there's some sort of gold. And even when I can go a little bit into like, oh man, like that was my stuff, you'll be like, and you're showing me that you don't feel safe. And, and you really receiving that message and not just making it about my emotions as being the problem. It's like again and again inviting me to keep showing you what's really alive inside. So, a way I think of this is you're seeing my body and my being as carrying really helpful information and helpful reflections about life and about your path. And so then it's like almost like you're like, please share with me what's happening in your body. Please share with me actually what's going on for you, because that's going to actually give me information about our life, about what's happening, about what's needed. And so this is this whole idea of the feminine oracle. I have a friend, Sarah Shepherd. If you're interested, she has a program called Oracle Body, and this is what it's about. It's about the feminine body, the body that is actually wise, and it's an oracle. And, I might sometimes as the feminine know what it's saying and sometimes not. But it's like what I experience with you, Mike, is you're not like, hey, keep that contained. You're like, hey, like, tell me what's going on in there. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you're a bit like, oh God, wait, there's just like, I'm it's too much right now or whatever.
Too quick, too fast. Like this is too quick, too fast. It is a tsunami right now inside. Not that, yes. And this is an important one. Not that Courtney's always embodying that, but in my nervous system, she could say the subtlest thing, like, I'm disappointed. And my nervous system feels like it's a tsunami because I'm going into my internalized shame. I'm like, that voice in my head's beating me up. I'm feeling so, inadequate in what I'm providing. But I'm always so grateful because that's inviting me to mature in some place. It's like, whoa, if I'm getting this like thrown off, I'm not going to be in service. If I were a warrior on the field with my other brothers, I'm not going to be of service if I'm that shaken by some words and feelings that were shared. So, whoa, what's here for me? And what am I being invited to?
Which you do have to be a warrior to wade into that space. And what I would say is that a lot of these myths and stories and, about battle and about the warrior and about, a lot of that is talking about this. It's
sacred relationship
with spirit, with a partner. This is the battlefield. And I say this because we don't want it to be battle, but it's the inner battlefield of the warrior who's going to show up and is going to show up in honor and is like, this is intense right now. Energetically, shit's flying everywhere. Energetically, this just tore up the ground. Energetically, I don't even know what's true anymore, like just energetically. And it's like the warrior, like to be on the horse and to ride through that and to be like, and I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to keep plowing ahead and I'm going to keep moving towards. And like, really, these stories of battle are ultimately, that's what it's about. Is like, can we find that part of ourselves in the chaos and the mess? Because when the feminine comes in and she shares these parts, it is an upheaval. It is a like ripping the rug out from underneath. It's the mess. It's the chaos. It's life. It's life. And, this is where we have to learn to move through that part together instead of making it bad, instead of going into your mind and so if we think about the process, that's when, and I love this, Mike, watching it in you, it's like the choosing to ride your horse through the chaos, like the choosing, I don't know how we're going to, and you say this to me too, I have no idea what I'm going to do, but let's figure this out together, and that's that warrior energy. And for me as the feminine, how I see this process is, when the initiation process can happen is I have a feeling, I have an intuition, I have something that's arising. And I don't know if men think this is what's happening or not, but for me, it's not like it just arose in that moment for the first time ever. I've been getting to know that feeling. It's there. I'm getting to know the contours of it. It's probably arisen inside of me many, many, many times. I may have even been aware of it for a few years, and because there's also right timing of when certain initiations are meant to happen, right? But then there's this place where I have to choose in my warrior that I'm going to bring this to the masculine. I'm going to bring it, and sometimes it'll be more prepared and contained and in a more mature way. And then sometimes it's a little more like, rah, but a part of me has to choose to do that. A part of me has to be fierce enough to bring that warrior in myself to the masculine. And when the masculine can hear it, when he can receive it, when he can dance the dance with it, there's this huge relaxation because it's like, that was my mission, as the feminine. My job is to deliver this information to you.
The oracle.
Yeah. And it's from love. If I don't like it, it's like, this is my job. I need to deliver this to you and I need to make sure you can hear it and get it. And when the masculine is like, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to dance with it. The feminine's like, oh, okay. And then when the masculine can come back and say, okay, I see this, like, oh, I have this clarity, and something changes in our life together, like, wow, it's like going through the chaos and landing in a whole other life. It's like there's a new life on the other side. And now suddenly Mike shifts this and changes that. And suddenly, more harmony and love is restored in the kingdom. And so for me, the initiation process is I'm tuning into something big. I'm tuning into the bigness of this life we're in together. Something's moving through you, me. I need to deliver it to you. Can you receive it? Can you hear this? You know, and when the masculine is like, I'm going to take this and I'm going to figure it out. It's like, it's the deepest fulfillment to the feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And when the masculine comes back and changes something and does something different, that's how she knows she's loved. That's how she knows, oh, I've got the knight on the horse who's here. He's in this with me, and he's going to keep coming back with something new.
Yeah.
And that's when she knows she's devoted to. That's when she knows she's loved. And what I'm talking about is not the part that, like, because so many women, they know they're loved in quotation marks, but I'm talking about a deep embodied feeling of, oh, this man is here. He's devoted to me. And that you can't pretend. You can't tell yourself spiritually. You can't like mantra yourself through. It's a lived experience that arises in that alchemical initiation process. It's that moment when he comes back that she's, and you know, we watch this in our couples community because it's so beautiful in our couples community. It's couples that love each other, you know, and many of them do have initiation processes that they do, you know, and then there's places where they're stuck and they're not able to move through it. And that's part of what they're working on. But I can feel it in the women that the reason they're able to devote more to the love and that they're so committed to their partner is because each of them has a man that has done that, you know? And so they know in their body, he's here, he's with me, he's going through this with me. And there's nothing stronger for a woman than that. Nothing. Yeah.
Just want to pause there and let any man or woman listening to feel that. That's it. And just me getting to sit here in this experience of feeling you radiate and glow from this place, this wisdom in this place. That's one of the greatest gifts of saying yes to the initiation process, and what you've done such a beautiful job embodying, and just by being in this process with me sitting here in my felt sense lived experiences, no greater joy to feel the feminine, feel safe enough to actually authentically express gold back of what I provide. And so when you went back and you described, wow, what I do so well, and I come back and I acknowledge, and all these pieces you've named in your experience, and I know this is true for all men, getting to receive reflections like that is the greatest joy and fulfillment. Like, wow, if I can, from the biological level of how we're designed is to provide and protect, if we can do that and the report card comes back of you actually are feeling that, that's the greatest gift to receive. And so I'm kind of going into the next point of like the benefits of it, but this is in the moment and I feel it. And what's so worth acknowledging is what you're also describing is, even with those examples, with all those women you know, where their men are doing the thing, there's also the woman who's going through their own initiation process to be able to deliver these oracle downloads, these hits, these embodiments in a way where it does initiate. And that's a big gift that you've given me that's so important to name. Like, yes, okay, I can receive it and feel it and do all my parts where I take ownership and responsibility and come back and we move through it together. But that's also a byproduct of how you deliver the messages. It's also a byproduct of all the years of work that you've done. It's you even initiating me into the understanding of that this is the process. Mm-hmm. And there's been so many times that if you didn't bring that oracle piece and orient me of, yeah, this is a fucking mess right now. This is beautiful. Something's dying here and we're in it and we're here together and we're doing it. We're doing it. If you didn't bring all those pieces, it wouldn't allow the grace of my initiation process to happen for me to bring more of that mature man king energy that I love to call it, that king energy back to you to even have something to share. And that's the beautiful dance. And I can hope I wanted to highlight that piece, because what I feel in the process of being initiated and you initiating and vice versa, which will be another episode, it's entering the realm of relationship that is rooted in reciprocity. Like you doing your work, you bringing your gifts, having the courage. I know there's been moments where it's probably terrifying of, I'm going to call this big, strong man out.
Well, and especially where I think the feminine, it takes a lot of courage, is maybe you've done it before. And this is what I wanted to say to the women listening. Part of like the art of this is, and you can go back and listen to my solo episode, The Awakened Woman Loving Fiercely. But, as a feminine, it means you have to get to know, you have to have a strong relationship with spirit, because spirit's going to guide you when the right time is to deliver different things. And I'm not talking about the avoidant part of you that's like, oh, not today because, he's not in a good mood. I'm talking like the deep soul knowing of like when. It requires patience, because sometimes it's not time for certain initiations. Sometimes you have one in there and it's just not time. It's not time. Yeah. And the day will come, but you have to wait, And then the other thing is it's the ability that you might try and it might not land. It might not work. It might not happen in the way he's needing. So do you have the tenacity to keep reflecting it, but not pounding it over his head, but just keep finding different ways, keep, okay, I'm going to bring it, and getting creative. But it's like, you gotta have to keep bringing it. You can't just, oh, well, he's not getting it, so I'm just going to put it away, And we just went through an initiation like this where I had kind of been trying in lots of different ways, and coming at it directly wasn't working. And basically it was a place where, from my experience, it felt like when I would go to share how I was feeling about something, Mike would come in really quick, and in a way, this is my projection, in a way that was like defensive, or like perceiving that I was telling him he couldn't have what he was feeling.
It was an accurate projection. That is what was happening.
That's what was happening. He denied it though.
When I was in it.
When you were in it.
It was a blind spot.
It was a big blind spot.
I did deny it, and I did believe that she was asking me to be codependent.
And I wasn't. And I'd been tracking it for a long time, and I'd been, and I could also see, I'm like, oh, this is the pattern from his family. Like I see where this comes from his family. And so the art is to not like get so enraged that you just attack, but also not to like back down. So I would just keep reflecting it in different ways and different, and then eventually we ended up actually in a therapy session where the therapist was able to say, to reflect back to him basically that his blind spot.
Well, the way that she named it so beautifully was saying, Mike, what I'm perceiving is that, what did she say?
She said, I didn't perceive Courtney as being critical at all there.
Yeah.
She was just sharing her feelings. Right. I think she just needed you to give her a little more space.
Yeah. And that there's something she's trying to say, and she said it 3 times in this call, and it's not an unreasonable, inappropriate ask. And her saying the words, which is so what my inner thought and idea was, that's not codependent. That's appropriate for her to want that. And I was like, oh. And then it's like, I got to feel a little gut punch of like, oh, great. Thank God I took 2 empowered feminine to call out my blind spot and be like, yeah, fuck, now I see it. And I felt relief. I felt liberated because, my shit was so strong. My defense strategy was so, and just to name it, in my nervous system, I worked with this after. I was numb. I was numb in this place, and I couldn't receive the information to feel what was true. I was just so in the defense strategy that my reality was true. But it's because I didn't want to feel the internalized shame, and I didn't know that. But when I got to work with it, it's like, oh yeah, I do that. And now I get to cultivate more capacity when we're in those places where I can get triggered into, oh no, now I'm making it about me. And it's and I'll call pauses and I'll breathe and I'll orient and I'll do my work around it so that Courtney, is that you can keep sharing.
But what was really cool about that story was, and this is why I wanted to share it, is it took a lot of courage for me to keep going there, because I could totally feel the part of me that would just give up and then just accept this is what's going to be here. But also not getting like rah about it either, but just keep reflecting it in all these little ways. And then guess what? Life created a scenario where it was seen. And I really believe that that's what will happen, is life will come in. Something will happen, because we weren't doing a therapy session about that. But life came in, life brought in a new ingredient. And I think that that's what will happen. But what I love from that story is you went and then started to do a bunch of work with it, and it led to all these breakthroughs and insights. So, it was actually this beautiful gift. Right. And this is what we give each other. But I just loved watching that initiation in you, because you didn't come back being like, God, Courtney, why did you do that? You came back being like, yes, I'm coming out of a huge numbness. Like I'm coming, it was like, I'm freer,
And acknowledging and apologizing for the amount of times you tried to initiate and I couldn't receive it.
Yeah.
And the harm in that.
And this leads me to the other point before we go to the next. This is the other key for the feminine, and it's an art, is then when the masculine gets it, you can't, now you have to let it go. Like you can share oh, that was hard. But once he shifts, you got to let him shift. And you got to let it go, because sometimes what can happen is that little girl gets in here, and now the little girl is like, she's going to keep coming at him about that thing, even though he's shifted. And we watch that in therapy a lot, where it's like, now you have to see that he's shifted, and you gotta shift too. Yeah.
It's an important piece.
Let him change.
The thing that is really coming through while you're sharing and while we've been exploring this place in the process, and this is something I have felt from you from day one, what I'd say in this process of being initiated, or just in the initiation process, what I've felt is where, and this is how I would describe it, where you can see the potential of the man I'm meant to be, and you hold that vision strongly.
And my body can feel it.
And your body can feel it. And then as we relate in the day-to-day world, your oracle comes online and says, well, and it's like this beautiful example of, the statue of David started out as this chunk of rock. And I love how it was spoken from this one author, I forget his name, where he said, the statue of David was removing everything that wasn't David. Mm-hmm. And that's how I feel it
that's what the sculptor said.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so and that's just like, that for me is the essence of sacred relationship. And I feel that from you. So now what I feel like you've helped initiate me into is the understanding, because I can track and see the places where you do see the health in me. You do see the king in me, and you do love where I'm at, but also not just going to accept where I'm at. Yeah. And so in an attuned way, by you doing your work, I have really felt you find the right timing of and here's a chunk of marble that needs to be removed. That's not Mike, not the Mike and the king that I see that's really here to make big impact. And then you're like, and that, and this blind spot, and this place I don't feel safe. And then slowly it's inviting me to kill, shed, drop off parts that actually aren't serving me as a man. It's not serving my mission. It's not serving how I'm meeting you. And what a beautiful process to be in.
And though I want to say in that is, and this is the other art to it, is I don't know what's going to happen when I do it. And this is the key. This is the key in the feminine versus the fixer versus the oracle. Because as the oracle, I deliver the package. I don't know what you're going to do with it. I don't necessarily know what you're going to discover. And that's the art, is can I deliver the package and let go? Because the fixer now wants to explain to you what the package means and how you should work with it. And the fixer wants to come over there and like micromanage how you're going to do it. And that is I so did that in my first relationship. And guess what? Interrupts the initiation process, because I got to hand you that package and then I got to let you go through whatever you got to go through. And it might look completely different from what I think it should look like. And I have to leave it with you.
Yeah. And then we'll shift into like the perks, which we've kind of described a bit already. For the feminine, if the initiation process isn't happening, that's also an invitation to reflect and be curious. Am I delivering the package, or I'm putting a bunch of twang on it?
Yeah.
Where my hurt little girl's beating the shit out of them, because if the initiation process isn't happening, it's not all on the man. No. There's a place where it's the delivery of it's really important. And there's times where you have not delivered it elegantly, but it still led to initiation because of all the places you do deliver it elegantly.
Yes.
Of like, okay, whoa, that one just came out a little hot, but okay, look at Mike, look, where could there be truth in this one? Because all these other times, it's almost every time there's something that's going to help me evolve as a man. So this one, yeah, it came with some human Courtney on it. And let's just like back up a little bit and like lick the wounds. And I just want to name this because a lot of men are just being taken out at the knees over and over and over because of the delivery of the timing of all of it at once. Like,
or the feminine not actually letting him go into his mess.
That's right. Yeah. And feel whatever he needs to feel so the initiation process can happen. Cause that's an important part of it is, Courtney, you let me, and I've gotten to the place too, where I'll advocate if you come in again, I'm like, hey, it's just, I gotta feel what I'm going to feel. Don't fix this for me. I need to feel the shame. This is bringing up my childhood. I want to go through the experience of all of this, and it will integrate, and then I'll come back. And so just naming, there's an art to learning, the pace of this process for it to happen in a really good way, where it's leading to, and this is the evidence to look for, are changes happening? If the changes are happening, yay, you're in the initiation process. If they're not, both people get to be curious. Well, what am I contributing that's not allowing it to happen? Yeah. So now the perks. We described a few of them, but the perks of being in this initiation process, I'd love, maybe, why don't you start here, of you in the feminine? What's the perk for you being in relationship with a masculine who has said yes to the initiation process?
Yeah, feeling really sexually attracted. Like I consistently feel sexually attracted to you, and then the second that there's an initiation we haven't quite gone through, then my sexuality's like, And that's how I know, because it's like, and then the minute we move through it, I'm like, yeah, okay, back to wanting to be sexual. How I experience it's invigorating. Life energy is moving. It's invigorating. I build a deeper trust in you. My body wants to open to you. I feel devoted to. I'm not trying to make myself. It's innate. It's like I trust you in my body, it's not a thought. It's my body, because we just went through that initiation together. It allows our life to move forward in a good direction, in a clear direction, where there's more and more love and goodness happening. And there's little changes every day. Because really, in our day-to-day life, initiations are ongoing, and there might be a bunch in a day. There might be a really big one in a week, or and so everything's continually evolving in an intentional upward direction, and that is such a gift, because then life is becoming better and better. Life is becoming more and more well. we're becoming more and more on the same page. And as the feminine too, those places where you're like, oh, this part doesn't feel good. And you're like, oh, well, the best part about the initiation process is then that gets to change, that gets to shift. And maybe not right away. Maybe there's some work that has to be done, but it can change. It changes. Yes. And the amount of hope that comes in that is just like, yeah, because then you can be with the parts that are feeling kind of sticky or the parts that haven't transformed yet, because it's coming. That together you're finding your way forward, and the depth of trust you feel in your body as the feminine when the masculine is with you in this. And it just allows such a softening. I'm getting to come into whole new layers of safety, creativity, feeling met. I'm stabilizing in a really big way. I'm getting to stabilize at the foundation of who I am because I'm being devoted to in this way. Mm-hmm. And I'm being called forward with my oracle and my emotions and my gifts.
Yeah, beautiful. Are there any ways where you feel that how it supports your mission and your unique sovereign dharma?
Yeah. Yeah. Like the softening, feeling safer. Like I would say the biggest thing is when you have another nervous system that's co-regulating in life with you and learning how to create a life that's more and more stable and loving and compassionate and pleasurable, then that just is in you. And then that feeds into everything you're doing. It feeds into how I'm mothering. It feeds into how I am in my community. It feeds into my offerings, like what I offer to the world. Then there's this flavor inside of all of that is the soup of this love, the soup of that safety, the soup of, and that you can't fake. It's a frequency that is alive, and it has to be being experienced. And the cool thing about it is that I can't do by meditating. That has to be a relational experience. And then it makes me even more grateful for you because I can't do that for myself. Mm-hmm. I can only do that because you're choosing to do that with me.
Mm. Yeah, beautiful.
Which is just like, and then I want to bow to you and just like, like honor you as my king, like naturally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel that. That's such a perk being, in this side of it is being received in the places where I do mature as a man. Mm. So, the perks for me, well, I want to start with this piece. A perk that I end up getting by saying yes to this process is that you will hold the tender parts of me as a man. You will hold the tenderness of my heart, and I have developed trust that you can do that in certain places. And what a gift to be held in the places where the voice in my head tells me I'm so weak and inadequate, and you build me up in those places to remind me of the king that I am. That's one of the perks, because that's a byproduct of this initiation process. And when I get to bring the adult places, the parts that are maturing and developing, what a gift to be received in what I provide. Like I love and live for the moments where I get reflections of how safe you feel, how met you feel. This is the first time you've ever been met in this way, in this place by the masculine. Like,